So I was looking at someone else's 348 the other day, and he had beautiful carbon fiber door sills. And I was wondering if I could achieve the same effect without spending $1 billion. So I'm going to try the carbon dip stuff. I've ordered a kit to do that, but first I have to make my own sills. So here's the original one, and it's fairly simple except for it's got this little hooked edge along here that hooks over the little lower scoop below the doors. So you can buy a big sheet of steel at Home Depot or Lowe's. The thickest they have, I think, is a 22 gauge, which is marginal, but hopefully thick enough. We'll see. But then you have to bend your own little curl over lip here, which would be a piece of cake if I had a sheet metal brake, but I don't. But you would need one that's almost 4 feet long, because it's a long panel here. So my half-ass sheet metal brake is a couple pieces of angle iron here and a vise. And you take your sheet of steel. This is just a scrap piece, and I marked about 1.25 inches from the edge, and that's where I'm going to do my first bend. Now, since my pieces of angle iron are maybe 1.5 feet long at best, and the total panel is almost 4 feet long, you're going to have to do it in stages, which means each bend has got to be maybe 20 or 30 degrees. If you try and do 90 degrees on one end while the other one's still straight, obviously it's going to screw the panel up. So it takes a while to do all these little bends. So basically, here's my crap piece of steel here, and there's my line, 1.25 inches from the edge, and I put it in my angle iron so that they're right along that edge, and now I'm just going to bend it with a board. So take my board, put it up against the steel, and give it a shove. And we have our beginning of our first bend, and then you just keep sliding it along and doing a little more, and a little more. So you keep working it back and forth, and eventually you end up with hopefully a nice 90-degree bend there. So that's half the battle. Now we have to put the second bend in, and to do that I just used a hunk of scrap wood that was, I just measured it. It measures in at 5/16 width, so it's about the same thickness as the bend in the old plate. So, crash, bang, boom. What we're going to do is put the 90-degree up against the edge of the wood and then bend this edge down. Now, to keep it from sliding around, what I did was put some screws in to hold it in place, just to make sure the screw holes are not going to end up where you're being part of your sill plate. But you screw it in, then lay it on the ground. So I've got it screwed on. I've got it as tight up against the edge of that wood as I can do. And now I have a nice big hunk of wood and a big ass hammer here. And basically you just work along the edge and slowly move back and forth. And you will get your curled edge that you want. Okay, so now I have a good curled edge here. but I have excess metal coming back, and the reason I had excess metal is because it's easier to bend if you got a lot of edge to help flip over. But now you need to trim it down so that it looks like the edge on the original sill plate, and it's pretty skinny. So use your metal cutting wheel on your angle grinder and just slice it down. Do make sure you get the 4-foot sheet of the steel, because anything shorter and you'll find that it won't work. The sill plates are a lot longer than you think they are. So you trim down your curled edge, then you place the whole thing on top of your original sill plate, trace the outline, cut that with your cutting wheel, and then put a sanding disc on your angle grinder to get some of the curves. And you will end up with a fake sill plate here. And now I've sprayed this with a etching primer on the back where I've made my cuts because for rust protection. So I've trimmed down my edge here, and up at the end of the plate it gets very thin, and then I just did my curve and cut and everything else here. So here's my fake sill plate, and my only concern is that since it's 22 gauge steel, it is fairly thin. I mean, it's not bad, but with my 4 by whatever, 4 by 3 foot sheet maybe of steel, there's a pretty good chunk of excess spare steel in the middle. So what I did was cut that in half, and I glued it to the center of the bottom of my sill plate just to give it a little more strength here where I may be stepping on it. So, and although I did prime the bottom with the etching primer, I left the top, which is already I believe galvanized, left it plain because the dipping solution there is apparently you paint it with their preferred undercoat, then do the dip, and then you're going to have to spray the clear coat on top of it. Okay, I'm here in my makeshift paint booth in the garage with plastic everywhere and my respirator about to go on. My panels have been nice, clean, shined, degreased, everything else. And now I have to put my base coat on, but that has to be activated with a hardener. It's 4 ounces of base coat to 1 teaspoon, believe it or not, of hardener. So I'll mix those together, shake them up for 2 or 3 minutes, and then spray them on with my spray gun, and hopefully it'll turn out okay. Okay, so here's my 2 panels that have now been painted with the base coat. That one is face up, this one is face down to show my little dipping handles that I made from duct tape. So hopefully I can pick it up and flip it. And the whole thing is going to be done in the big bathtub here. I got a thermometer laying in the bottom because they say it needs to be 90 to 100 degrees. So it's a big enough tub, needs to be at least 4 feet. So we'll see what happens. You have to put the film in and let it sit for 1 minute and then spray the activator on. Now the activator came in a little can, and I don't have the official aerosol sprayer, so I've thoroughly cleaned out a Armor All spritz bottle, and I'm hoping that that's going to do the job of doing the activator spraying. The other advantage of this room is it's got 2 windows, because they say once you start spraying the activator you have to have a well-ventilated space. So I will open the windows when I'm spraying, and then behind me is the shower, because after you do the dip then you have to rinse it off for quite a while. So we'll see if this works.